You've consumed more self-help content than most people will read in a lifetime. You've journaled and affirmed and visualized and meditated and set intentions and tracked habits and read the books and listened to the podcasts and watched the motivational videos, and somehow you feel worse now than you did before you started, more inadequate, more broken, more convinced that there's something fundamentally wrong with you, because all these tools that work for everyone else just make you feel like a failure who can't even self-improve correctly. Every morning routine you couldn't maintain became another piece of evidence that you're not disciplined enough. Every gratitude journal you abandoned proved you're not positive enough. Every goal you didn't hit confirmed you're not focused enough. And the voice in your head that used to just criticize you for your actual problems now also criticizes you for not being able to fix yourself using the same methods that turned other people into productivity machines with perfect morning routines and unshakable mindsets. You thought personal development would save you, would finally give you the tools to become the person you're supposed to be, but instead it just gave you a longer list of ways you're failing, a more sophisticated vocabulary to describe your inadequacy, and a growing suspicion that maybe you're the only person on earth who's too broken to be fixed by the advice that apparently works for literally everyone else. You've tried every morning routine and quit them all. You feel guilty for not meditating. You can't stick to your own goals. You beat yourself up for not being consistent. You compare your progress to everyone else's wins. You feel like a fraud for even trying. You're exhausted from optimizing. You hate yourself for needing rest. You've made self-improvement another thing you're failing at. You track your habits and feel worse when you break them. You read about discipline and feel more undisciplined. You watch success stories and feel more unsuccessful. You've turned growth into punishment. You weaponized productivity against yourself. You can't enjoy anything because you should be working on yourself. You feel behind even though you don't know what race you're running. Your identity became your project, and your project is failing. You're performing improvement without actually improving. You know all the right words but can't make them work. You've become an expert at knowing what you should do while still not doing it. Personal development wasn't designed to heal you. It was designed to sell you the idea that you're broken enough to need constant fixing, that your natural state is insufficient, and only through endless optimization, discipline, and self-monitoring can you earn the right to feel okay about yourself. The entire industry is built on creating a gap between who you are and who you should be, then selling you bridges that never quite reach the other side. Because if you ever actually arrived, if you ever felt complete, you'd stop buying books, courses, planners, and the next big framework promising to finally unlock your potential. You started this journey hoping to feel better, to gain tools that would make life easier. But what you actually got was a new lens through which to view yourself as perpetually inadequate, a measuring stick that keeps growing taller every time you think you're making progress, and a community of people all pretending they've figured it out while secretly drowning in the same shame spiral of never being optimized enough, consistent enough, or disciplined enough to meet the impossible standards being sold as achievable. The irony is devastating. You sought help because you already felt broken, and the help convinced you that you were right to feel that way, then added layers of new brokenness by showing you all the ways you're failing to fix the original brokenness, creating a feedback loop where the solution becomes the problem, and you can't tell anymore if you're healing or just getting better at diagnosing yourself. Every guru selling you their system needed you to believe your current system is wrong. Every coach promising transformation needed you to feel inadequate enough to pay for it. And every influencer showing you their perfect routine needed you to feel inferior enough to copy it. And you absorbed all of this messaging until you genuinely believed that your worth is measured by your ability to maintain habits, hit goals, and optimize yourself into a productivity machine that never rests, never doubts, and never admits that maybe all this self-improvement is actually self-abandonment, disguised as growth. You don't need more tools, you need permission to stop using self-improvement as punishment for being human. Because somewhere along the way you stopped trying to grow and started trying to become someone else entirely. Someone who doesn't struggle, doesn't need rest, doesn't have bad days. Someone who isn't you and never will be, no matter how many morning routines you try. The personal development industry convinced you that your natural rhythms are wrong, that your need for rest is weakness, that your humanity is a bug to be fixed rather than a feature to be accepted. And you bought into it because you were vulnerable and desperate and looking for someone to tell you how to feel less broken. But what they actually told you is that you should feel more broken until you buy their solution, implement their system, and finally transform into the person they promise you can be if you just try harder, want it more, and commit fully to never being satisfied with who you are right now. You've been trying to self-improve your way out of self-hatred, but self-improvement as it's currently sold is just sophisticated self-hatred with better marketing. A way to keep you running on a treadmill that speeds up every time you think you're getting somewhere. Ensuring you never arrive, because arrival would mean the industry loses a customer, and you might realize you were never as broken as they needed you to believe you were. The brutal truth nobody wants to say is that most of what you've been told about growth is designed to keep you in a state of perpetual inadequacy, where you're always chasing the next level, the next breakthrough, the next version of yourself that's finally good enough. And the real tragedy isn't that you're failing at self-improvement. It's that you were never supposed to succeed because success would mean accepting yourself as you are. And that acceptance doesn't sell courses, doesn't generate clicks, doesn't keep you coming back for the next secret that will finally unlock your potential if you just implement it perfectly starting tomorrow. You can start undoing this damage right now by giving yourself permission to be a human being instead of a human doing. By recognizing that rest isn't something you earn through productivity, that consistency isn't a moral virtue, that your worth isn't tied to your output, and that maybe the person you are when you're not trying to optimize yourself is actually the person you were meant to be all along before the self-help industrial complex convinced you otherwise. Stop tracking every habit like your value depends on it. Stop beating yourself up for not maintaining routines that make you miserable. Stop comparing your messy reality to everyone else's carefully curated highlight reel of their supposed transformation, because most of those transformations are either lies, unsustainable, or maintained at a cost to mental health that nobody talks about because admitting struggle doesn't fit the narrative they're selling. You need 3 things, and only 3 things to actually grow in a way that heals instead of harms. Honesty about where you are without judgment, clarity about where you want to go without fantasy, and actions so small they feel laughably easy that you can actually maintain without willpower, because willpower is finite and systems built on it always collapse eventually. Forget the 5 a.m. wake-ups if you're not a morning person. Forget the elaborate morning routines if they make you hate mornings. Forget the productivity frameworks that turn your life into a spreadsheet. And start asking what would make today 1% better without requiring you to become someone you're not, what would feel like care instead of punishment, what would honor your actual energy instead of demanding energy you don't have. The real work isn't optimizing yourself into some idealized version that meets impossible standards. The real work is learning to function as the imperfect, inconsistent, sometimes struggling human you actually are. Building supports that work with your nature instead of against it, and recognizing that progress looks like finally being able to rest without guilt, to have a bad day, without catastrophizing to miss a goal, without deciding you're a failure, to exist without constantly auditing yourself against some external standard of what growth should look like. Personal development didn't fail you because you weren't trying hard enough, or didn't want it badly enough, or couldn't maintain the discipline required. It failed you because it was never designed to help you in the first place. It was designed to create an endless cycle of inadequacy that keeps you consuming content, buying solutions, and believing that the next framework will finally be the one that works if you just implement it perfectly this time. You've been trying to grow in a system that profits from your belief that you're not enough. Seeking healing from an industry that needs you to stay wounded because healthy people don't buy cures. And the exhaustion you feel isn't from lack of discipline. It's from years of forcing yourself into molds that were never meant to fit you, while being told the problem is your shape, not the mold. The version of you that existed before you discovered personal development, before you started tracking and optimizing and constantly improving, wasn't actually broken, wasn't actually inadequate, wasn't actually in need of the complete overhaul you've been attempting, but you were sold that narrative so effectively that you forgot what it felt like to just be yourself without constant commentary about how you should be better, different, more. You can stop now. You can put down the tools that have become weapons. You can step off the treadmill that speeds up every time you gain your footing. You can give yourself permission to exist without a transformation arc, without a glow-up story, without having to prove through your optimization that you deserve the space you take up in the world. The personal development that actually works doesn't look like what they sold you. It looks like learning to be gentle with yourself on hard days, like building one tiny sustainable habit instead of 17 ambitious ones. Like accepting that growth is not linear, and some seasons are just about surviving, not thriving. And that's not failure. That's being human in a world that's trying to convince you that human isn't enough. You were never too broken to be fixed. You were just convinced by people making money off your insecurity that you needed fixing in the first place, and the moment you stop believing that lie is the moment you can finally start building a life that fits who you actually are instead of who some guru told you you should become. Stay,